Hello everybody, here we go. We're going to be doing what I do with freezer paper for applique. All right, so just because I do it this way doesn't mean everybody else does it this way. All right, just get that straight. What's prompted this is the new quilt that I've done behind me here. That is called, what did I call it? I called it Blooming Dresden. All right, so there is now a pattern available, by the way, and kits if anybody wants. It's Tilda fabric. It's just gorgeous. Anyway, so I'm not very good at technical, as you all know. All right, so I've sort of set this up that I hope to show you what I'm doing. I'm going to turn the camera down a little bit and hope that I don't lose everybody along the way like that. It's trying to tilt over. We'll stick that on top of that and that will balance it. There we go. Not that you can see me, but that's fine. You don't need to see me. You need to see what I'm doing. All right. So what I was aiming for on the one behind me there was nice, puffy. I don't know if you can see that well enough, but you can actually see that it sticks off of the background fabric. It lifts itself up a little bit. And then when you get to quilting it, if you quilt it right the way around the very edge, it will puff out even more. It's really rather lovely. I do like doing it this way. It raises it, unlike if you were using fusible bond web, or fusible web I should say, which is also fabulous, and I've used that for all the grasses on this particular one. The grasses being these shapes here, so they're flatter and the actual bloom is raised. Yeah, okay. So how do we use the freezer paper, or how do I use it? I'm not going to say anybody else does it this way. This is how I do it. Right, freezer paper being sheets of stuff that Americans and the like actually wrap their food in and put in the freezer. All right, so hence freezer paper. It's shiny on one side, you can see that. Okay, so that's like, I want to say it's like plastic. I'm assuming it's a sort of plastic, I don't know. And on the back it's just paper. Okay, and the cool thing with this is that you can cut shapes from it, and if you iron it from the paper side, it sort of activates the plastic to stick onto your fabric just long enough to get some really good results. All right, so that's your freezer paper. All right, so what I do is draw on the paper side. Okay, now whatever shape you're doing, I have to say, I'm going to give you eyeballs. There we are, it's a bit better, so you can give me eyeballs. All right, whatever you're doing, you do need to make sure that you're drawing things accurately. All right, and then you're cutting out accurately. It's one of my favourite words that everybody knows, accuracy. I have a thing about it. All right, so make sure you're using your paper scissors. You don't want your dress scissors on this, your fabric scissors, or it will defeat the object of we shout at everybody else that picks up our dress making scissors. We get upset about that, don't we? So what I'm going to do is just cut that out there. I've got lots of things all prepped ready to show you, because basically you don't want to be here all day just watching me do one thing, because it's not a quick thing. All right, those of you that like handwork, it will keep you entertained for quite a while. All right, so there we go. So there's me circle, having drawn round, now cut out, and I'm plasticky one side. So at this point I should already have done, and I haven't, put on the iron. All right, because that does help. So we're aiming, how do I get to this? All right, so I actually have fussy cut. I don't know if you can see that, because this was the fabric that I used. Look, there's a little mousey asleep in there. That's hibernation from Tilda. He's just so gorgeous. So I've sort of fussy cut him, or fussy placed him. So hence that. And then we get your fabric, and you can see enough from behind where it is that you want your circle. All right, so I'm just, I don't know, yes, you can see what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to pop that on there, and I'm going to iron it on. All right, there we go. Turn that down a little minute. Okay, so it sticks, and it's actually on there quite well. Yeah, says she, flipping it around. But actually, when you need it to, it will come off very easily. Just like that. It's good, isn't it? I like that. But you can reuse it then. So if you can't be bothered, you can complete one piece of your applique and then unpeel it and then use it again. All right, so there we go. So we put it back on again. And it's still there and it works. It's ever so good. We like this a lot. All right, so there we go. So that's that bit. So here's one I prepared earlier. So what I've done is I've actually cut him out with about 1/4 of an inch around. It's just judged. I'm not saying it's perfect 1/4 of an inch or anything, but that will do nicely. And then I tack around the edge. So this is where I've got the camera here so that you can see. Right, so I'd get myself a single thread, and then just in case, it shouldn't come off, but I use applique pins. All right, so these are the little white-headed ones. All right, they're clover, bi-clover I should say, and they're just very short. Can you see? But your thread won't hook around that as much as it would a normal pin. So nice brightly coloured thread, says she, that's just dropped straight out of my needle. That's because I thought I'll use a big needle for the tacking and then we'll do little needles for the rest of it. So actually, without my glasses on, can I actually do this? Can I? Yeah, we can see straight through. Now, a nice little tip for when threading your needles. Always cut your thread at an angle. All right, so get hold of your thread like so. Right, take off whatever length you want. Hold it sort of between, and literally take your scissors and cut it at an angle. So you've got a point, and it will thread that much easier. It's amazing. I was ever so impressed the first time I ever found that a few years ago. I was quite impressed with that. Right, so now this is where I want you to actually have a little look. So I'm going to turn this way. I fold in the fabric with the one thumb and I hold it with the other nail. All right, okay. So I'm just starting. Now I'm going to have to get up and show you this. If you tuck the thread, the fabric, sorry, underneath your thumb there, allow it to move, hold it again with the other thumbnail, and through you go. All right, so now can you see this is going to make a pleat? Hold the pleat with the other and come back through. All right, and then can you see that pleat? Hopefully, grab it with the other one, tack it through. So it's going to take quite a bit of tacking. All right, so under the nail, grab that and then tack through, and you're going to land up. Just keep repeating it so you're getting those little pleats and puckers, for whatever you want to call it. All right, and then carry on round, doing a whole load, and you're going to get lots of little pleaty bits going on. So I've got one here somewhere, hopefully, that I've already done for you. Here we go. Okay, so you can see all of these little pleaty puckers. All right, but that gives you a fabulous edge. All right, so I do that for all of my curved things. So if I was just doing a standard Dresden plate over card, like I did for some of them, I do the same thing and you get this lovely, lovely curve. All right, so under one nail, hold it with the other, poke through, hold it, and then you get all undone nicely. All right, but it is small stitching. It's not huge. It's going to take you a little while. Right, so I'm going to turn this back on, or have I just turned that off? Turn it on. Okay, so I've tacked that all on, taken any pins out, and so before I'm going to attach this to my fabric, I'm going to iron it. All right, so you get a real good crease around the outside edge. There we go. So yeah, it's not bad. There we go. So it's got a real nice edge to it. Paper's still in. Okay, right, so that's sort of cut it, stitch it, press it. All right, so then we're going to attach it. Okay, so I've got this one ready ahead of time because of threading the needle. Now if you can, I use clover applique needles. All right, so they're really thin. and they run through things really well. They're quite a bit of a bugger to thread, so cut your things at an angle. All right, so I did cut this ahead of time, and I usually use a colour thread. I don't know if you can see it. If I put that against there, can you see it's like a grey colour? There we are. And if you can get a silk thread in that sort of colour, which I generally have, it disappears into your fabrics. It's fabulous. All right, so I've already gone part way round this one because of time and the rest of it. All right, so what you'll find as you're stitching, let me stand up again. Okay, hopefully you can see that my thread's coming out from here. I'm just going fractionally under at the same spot, as it were. So underneath where that's come out, back up through the folded edge. Can you see that, hopefully? Through that edge. Okay, so you're not on the front, you're on the edge. Okay, and then pull that through and your thread will disappear underneath and you won't see your stitch. All right, do that again. So it's just underneath and then out in that thread. Okay, you don't want to be getting the paper. You're literally just aiming for that edge of fabric. All right, and pull him underneath. Now I've got nearly to the end of where I started, so if you look at the back you can see all the stitchings going on. I've got a couple of those applique pins in there that keeps it in place, and my thread won't get attached to it. All right. Oh, it's just starting to rain out there. Hopefully that's not going to be too loud. So I take out the pins. All right, and now I want to take this paper out from here because otherwise it's going to look a bit daft, isn't it? So ever faithful one of them, and let's get him out of there. So let's just untack him, says she. So it should come out fairly reasonably, says she. But I know that somewhere in here I've got a knot on the back that I shouldn't have had, and it's one of those things, isn't it? Will that let me pull? No, it's not going to let me pull from the knot. We'll just keep coming round. Okay, get that all out. There we are. That will do. So that's all the tacking out. Okay, so I've stitched it. The paper's still in there and it's still attached to the fabric. Okay, so now a pair of tweezers. We like tweezers. So that's where the hole is that we've not finished yet. So if you get your tweezers in there, let me stand up again. There we go. Tweezers in there. Okay, and then get them in between the paper and the fabric, and can you see I'm just loosening off that paper? All right, and then carefully grab hold of it and pull it out. Okay, so that's all done and out the way. Then you can just pop that back under. Because you've ironed, you're going to get a good edge still there, so you can carry on and finish your stitching and then finish off on the back. All right, so that's it really. So I've finished that one off on the back and that's all done in place, and away you go. So actually you can do any shape you want. You can do tiny ones, big ones, whatever you want. I wouldn't go too huge with freezer paper pieces because it'll bag a little bit off of your background fabric, whereas your fusible web will hold it too. But having said that, if you did a big one, you're then going to quilt it anyway. So that's going to hold it in place, isn't it? So you're going to quilt around. So yeah, there we go. So that's my freezer paper, how I use it. Tiny, tiny thin needles. I don't know that you can even see that one. All right, so little tiny thin needles. So I use Clover Applique needles. They're thin and long and help things go through really well. A nice sort of mid-grey or a pale grey or a dark grey. I tend to use all grey because you're not hopefully going to see your stitching because it's all going to be underneath and it's going to pull under as you do each of those stitches as you go around. Yeah, so that's really good. What I don't do is now iron that if I can help it, because I want it puffy, and then when I come to quilt it, that'll puff even more. Yeah, so yeah, there we go. That's how I do my freezer paper applique. A lot of people were asking when they were in the cupboard last week. Oh, I've never done that. How do I do that? What do we do with that? How do we do that? So it's really a cross between English paper piecing and needle turn applique. So it's a bit of a mix of the both. Oh, sorry, wobbling everything there. So yes, so don't forget that's now got the shiny on the one side. Yes, it's got hundreds of pins and holes in it, but I could use that again if I wanted. Yeah, so it's not very wasteful. So attach it as if you're thinking you're doing English paper piecing. Attach it onto with it still in, and then take it out. Yeah, so you get that really, really lovely sharp edge. Okay, there we are. So that'll be it for the day then. If anybody wants, as I was saying, Blooming Dresden for a reason, more than just blooming, if you get my meaning. On a tilde, it's a tilde fabric on that one. There are kits available. It's not necessarily a cheap thing because tilde isn't cheap, as we know. Okay, but it works out virtually a free pattern to go with it. If you don't want a kit, there's just the pattern, which will work fabulously with your scram stash. It's one of my, I always put it like that, see, scram stash. So you don't necessarily have to have too much. What you do need is at least 1 metre of the cream or whatever colour you're going to use as your framing and your border. Yeah, did I say 1 metre? 1 1/4 metres for that one. Okay, and it's actually quite a big quilt, as you can see behind me. 58.5 by 62.5 inches. Not centimetres. We still like inches as quilters, don't we? It's a fair good size, and you can carry on and make it bigger, or put larger framings in it, or whatever suits you. But it's a lovely scrap and stash, and using the tilde hibernation range. Well, when you see these fabrics as they are, sort of like this one, and then that one, and you think, oh, actually they're ever going to go together. But I've used 2 colour ranges within the hibernation and put them together, and because they're the same lovely soft colour palette, it works. Yeah, so you might actually think at first, if you just sort of fabric, oh god, that's never going to work, but it does if you alternate it and keep it colour coordinated within your whole quilt. All right, I'm going to shut up now, and hopefully that will have explained freezer paper to you. Lovely, lovely method for accuracy, handwork. I wouldn't use it for machine, obviously, because you've got to try and get that out. You don't want to be stitching through the paper at any point. Yeah, there you go. Thank you very much. Have a happy day.